Minash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim.
Welcome to a new episode of the Youth Corner.
We're Jaffri sisters. Today we are pleased to have Atiya Ahsan here with us.
She's not only a great speaker who shows her deep commitment to the Masameen of essential sources of wisdom of Quran.
By profession, Atiya Auntie has been a financial advisor for 30 years.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Today we are commemorating the death anniversary of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. Our first question for you today is, can you please help us understand what are the key reasons for us to know Sayyidah Fatima Zahra as a key role model for us?
Thank you. This is a really important thing for us to know, that what stands out about all the Masumeen and also about Sayyidah Fatima is that their knowledge was given to them straight from Allah. And because of their amazing role as the people who were the living and the speaking Quran. In Arabic, we say that the Quran, the book, is Quran-e-Samit, which means it's something that does not speak as you and I speak. And the Masumeen are Quran-e-Natiq, which means that they, in their personalities, in their actions, they are like the speaking Quran. So Sayyidah Fatima, being the only female among the 14 Masumeen, because we needed also a female role model for one thing. The other thing, of course, is that she was the daughter of the Holy Prophet. I mean, she was surrounded by the Masums. Her father was Masum, her husband Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam was Masum, both her sons, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, were Masum. And her mother, Hazrat Khadija bint Khuwailid, was an amazing woman. And she was the only wife of our Holy Prophet for 25 years. It's true that Sayyidah Fatima lost her mother when she was only 5 years old, which meant that for the rest of her life, until she was married to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, she was brought up within the household of the Holy Prophet. So that's just one of the reasons. And throughout her life, because she lost her mother early, and in the early days, so she was born 5 years after the declaration of the prophethood of Sayyid al-Mursaleen. So that she, those were really tough times for our Holy Prophet. People used to throw stones at him. They didn't like the fact that he was trying to tell them, you should not practice idolatry, you should not be doing idol worship. So many times he used to come home and he was injured and so she had to clean off his wounds and put on the bandages and take care of him. And he said that Fatima is Abiha, which means Fatima is like a mother to her father, because she took care of him.
So because her mother died so young in her childhood age, how was her father able to raise her to be such an amazing woman to us and such a huge role model in our lives, everyday lives today?
So I'm sure that there's more answers to this, but first of all, our Holy Prophet himself, because he was a prophet, he was a Masum, and yet we also should remember that his uncle, when she was born, her uncle Abu Talib was still alive, right? Because and his wife Fatima bint Asad was alive. So there were other among really wonderful people who took care of our Holy Prophet in his childhood, that is his uncle and his auntie, that they also helped him to take care of Fatima. But then, in the case of a Masum, it really doesn't, their greatness, it manifests itself as they get older, but a Masum is a Masum when they're born, even before they're born. So Allah has, for example, given the example of Jesus Christ, alayhi salam, how he was a day and a half old. And he made this amazing speech that Allah has recorded in the Quran to uphold the sanctity and chastity of his mother's name, Sayyidah Maryam. And so there's other examples that we could talk about. So a Masoom is really has the wisdom and the knowledge, a certain degree of wisdom and knowledge. As with every passing day, as they need knowledge, Allah has made the knowledge available to them. It's only that when one Imam passes on the Imamah to the next Imam before his passing, that there is a whole different realm of knowledge that the Imam then facilitates opening for the next Imam.
So on topic of education, I would like to ask you, the majority of Muslims worldwide think that the Prophet did not know how to read and write, but obviously he did. So how do we know that Sayyidah Fatima knew how to read and write? Literacy is a crucial quality.
Okay, thank you. So the thing is that I would go back to my original content that I just presented a short while ago, but the principle, the Islamic principle behind this is the Usul-e-Adl. Usul-e-Adl means not just that Allah is always Adil, or at least Adil, but it also means that because Allah is Adil, and when you go to any university and they will show you, they will say that responsibility and authority go hand in hand. You cannot make somebody responsible for something without giving them the authority. And the authority comes from knowledge. So the knowledge of Sayyidah Fatima or Amirul Mu'mineen before that, because he was 30, Amirul Mu'mineen was 30 years younger than our Holy Prophet and the first cousin. Like, he was literally held as a baby in the arms of our Holy Prophet, and the Holy Prophet raised him, and Allah opened the realm of knowledge for them. So even if you think about it, that Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, he said to Sayyidah Zainab, Ya amme anti alima ghair muallima. Oh aunt, you are a scholar without ever having been a student of anybody. Because Sayyidah Zainab was not a Masuma, but Imam Zainul Abidin was honoring her by saying that even though you were never anybody's student, you are a scholar. So there is no doubt in our minds that Allah Ta'ala taught them. Just same thing. There are other passages in the Quran where Allah has said, whether we start from Adam alayhi salam, and Allah says in the Quran that Allama Adam al-Asma, that Allah taught Adam. Same thing, Allah taught others. There are other examples which we won't go into today, but that this knowledge was there because it is part of Allah's adl, that He should give them knowledge. They should never be without any knowledge that they would need on earth.
Atiya Auntie, I would like to ask you, how did the Prophet show his love and respect towards Sayyidah Zainab?
Okay, so the very public ways, and that is important to recognize, that some of the very public ways in which he showed his respect, one of them was that every time when she walked into the Masjid al-Nabawi, the Holy Prophet rose to greet her. So just if it was just you and I and other ordinary people, if we rise for our guests, we're just doing it as ordinary human beings. But any actions of the Holy Prophet were not just based on his personal feelings, hey, I like my daughter. No. He was showing to everybody who was present in the Masjid al-Nabawi at the time that Sayyidah Fatima came, that she is a person who is worthy, that the Khatm al-Mursaleen, the last of the prophets, the Prophet of Islam, the bearer of the Quran, would rise to greet her. And in the same way, later when they were Imam Hassan and Hussein, that he would put them in his lap so that people could see these are the children he called them his sons. And the other really public way that I think we should talk about is the event of the Mubahila, right? Because just to sort of bring everybody on the same page on this, I'll talk very briefly about the Mubahala, that there was a time when there were the bishops from the Christian bishops from the Bani Najran who came to the in Medina, and and for 3 days in a row they held discussions, and our Holy Prophet was saying to them that Isa alayhi salam was not God or son of God, but he was Allah's special creation whom Allah created without a human father. I mean, Allah had created Adam and Eve without human mother or father. So it was not something unusual. And that he was in fact the last prophet and the bearer of the last message of Allah. But these bishops were not convinced. So, as was customary among Arabian society at the time, they had this procedure which was called a Mubahala. And a Mubahala meant, because this was something that was, because Jews, Christians, Muslims, and Magians, all of these different faith groups were living in Medina, and that they all believed in the one and only God. So the Mubahala meant, okay, so what they actually would say, okay, this is what you're saying, and this is what our position is on this matter. So let's all get together. But the actual words in the Quran are saying, so, I won't recite the whole ayat, but essentially to say that, so say to them, O Prophet, that let us come together, and you bring your women, we'll bring our women, you bring your sons, we'll bring our sons, you bring yourselves. The word used is anfusuna, wa anfusakum. So the next day they were to come and meet in a very public place. So the Christian bishops agreed that and so when people get together, they would say, may Allah's curse fall upon the liars. That was the part that was specifically the Mubahala. And so on that day, the next day, the Holy Prophet came, and he had Imam Hussein on his left arm, and Imam Hassan was walking beside him, and immediately behind him was Sayyidah Fatima. And immediately behind her was Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam. So she was included among those in this very important, very public time when the prophethood and his Rasulullah and his veracity as a prophet was being questioned. And as we know that when the Christian bishops, they had said between themselves that if he brings members of his own family, then we'll know that he's honest and that he's right. But if he brings some friends or neighbors or whoever else, then we will do the Mubahala. And when they saw these, and that, in the olden days, the Arabs, they didn't even, they disrespected their women. And here, our Holy Prophet is bringing Sayyidah Fatima, the only woman. So this was a very public event. It was not in, like the Hadith Kisa, for example, it happened in the home of Sayyidah Fatima. But the Mubahala happened in a very public place. And the Christian bishops, they said, no, we will not engage in the Mubahala.
Let's take a short break.
We'll be back after the commercial. Stay tuned and keep watching.
The break.
So we have heard about the famous Hadith Thaqalain, and we want to know if you can give us a further explanation and tell us more about this.
Right, so Hadith Thaqalain, the Arabic word thaqal means something that is very weighty or something that carries a lot of weight. And the famous hadith of our Holy Prophet is Inni tarikum fikum al-thaqalain. And then he goes on, which means I am leaving behind me two weighty things. Kitab Allah wa itrati wa ahl bayti. So the book of Allah and my family members. So if you stick with these two, then you will meet me at the fountain of KRAZR in Jannah. So we have to see, well, what is the significance? Because I know just very recently on the 8th of December, somebody asked me, Atiya Andi, if we have the Quran and we have the Holy Prophet, why do we need any other help, any other spiritual masters or imams? And I said, yes, that requires a longer explanation. Because, as we mentioned very briefly a short while ago, that the Quran cannot, even though the exact text of the Quran in Arabic, in classical Arabic, is still exactly the words that were revealed to the Holy Prophet. We know that the surahs are not arranged in the chronological order of revelation. That we know. But whatever was revealed is in fact in the Quran. Because had it not been complete, then we had not just 12 imams, but also Sayyidah Fatima, who would have said, no, wait, something is missing. They never did, right? So the Quran is complete as it is in the classical Arabic. But the Quran cannot stand in front of a camera or in a street square or somewhere and explain itself. The Quran needs to be explained by amazing spiritual masters who are our imams, and our 12th imam is hidden from our eyes, but he is among us and he is carrying on his duties. So what we need during the days that our imam is hidden from our eyes, we have our scholars, and the scholars whom we have, they get a minimum of 7 years of Islamic education post-secondary. But the real significance is there was never a day, not even a split second, when after the passing of the Holy Prophet, that nobody was in charge. How can you have a ship without a captain, right? Do you know of any college or university that does not have a chancellor? There's always somebody at the top who is fully responsible for what goes on, how the students are taught, what they're taught. And do you think any university would, worth its name, would be respected if they did not watch the content of what was taught and how it was taught and who was teaching?
Yes.
So that is why the Masumin, or the Itrate Rasul, the family of the Holy Prophet, are so important. There was never ever a split second when one of them was not present to be our guide.
Atiya Auntie, we've talked about many great events in her life. Can we talk about the Nuzul Ayat al-Tatir, the event of the cloak?
Yes. So it was at a time when Imam Hassan and Hussein were already old enough to walk on their own 2 feet. This Ayat al-Tatir is the one in which Allah has said that Allah has decided, Innama yuridullah, that Allah wants to cleanse all of the Holy Prophet's nearest people from any kind of uncleanliness. And the biggest uncleanliness is ignorance or zulm, right? Yeah. So this ayat was revealed, and you know the event how one after the other, first the Holy Prophet came to the home of Sayyidah Fatima, and he said, I'm feeling a little tired or a little weak, so could you please bring me this Yemeni chadar, Yemeni textile fabric, which was a big enough, like a big chadar. And so she, one after the other, all the others also came. So Holy Prophet lay down under the chadar, and then one after the other, first Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and then Amir al-Mu'mineen, they all came, and they of course greeted Sayyidah Fatima with the right what we call protocol nowadays, but in Arabic or in Urdu we would say with the correct ihtaram, right? And she also replied with such grace, and she, for example, for both her sons, she said, "Wa alayka salam ya qurrata aini wa thamarata fuadi." Qurrata aini means the coolness to my eye, and thamarata fuadi means the fruit of my heart, which is an Arabic expression of love for someone who's right before us. And then Jibril alayhi salam came and he brought this ayat, so that and now once and Jibril also joined them under the chadar, and when this was done, then he told them that Allah is he swears by all the things that he has created, that he has indeed cleansed you and your family from all of these, any form of najasat, as we call it, najasat being ignorance and bad behavior. And so then then Amirul Mu'minin Ali alayhi salam asked the Holy Prophet, could you please tell us the significance of the revelation of this ayat and this our gathering under the chadar of Yamani chadar? And he said that from any of my Shias, any time in the future, when they gather together and they remind each other of this event and of the revelation of this ayat at-Tathir, then for the time that they will be getting together to recite this event, remind each other of it, that the angels will pray for them. And whatever are the du'as that the people, the listeners have in their hearts, that Allah will answer their prayers. So this is sort of on our day-to-day life. But the important thing is that the uncleanliness of zulm and ignorance never ever can be associated with any of the Masumin. So these are not people who are sort of remote from the Prophet, or who were somebody's teacher and one teacher taught them one thing and another teacher taught them anything. No, they're all Masum. Every one of them got their knowledge from Allah. There was never a clash between what one was saying and what the other was saying. So this continuity in Islamic circles, it is referred to as the tawatur. Tawatur means the consistent narration from one to the next to the next to the next of narration of a hadith, and that there's no break and there's no iffy persons in there. So the hadith qissa and the events taught by our Masumi, they're all totally consistent with what the Holy Prophet and what the Quran said. And that is our way of vetting a hadith. Is it really true? Because sometimes you hear really weird hadiths being tossed at you, and you say, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. It does not appear right on the basis of usul adl. It does not come right on the basis of the tathir of the Holy Prophet and his family. So sorry, this is illogical. This cannot be a part of our faith. We have to refer to an alim if we have further questions.
Thank you for tuning in to Youth Corner with Jaffri Sisters. You helped us learn a lot.
Don't forget to tune into the next episode. We will be doing 2 more segments of this topic about Sayyidah Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. Youth Corner
with Jaffri Sisters.